The alarm screamed across New Denver Colony like a wounded animal. Jake Morrison dropped his welding torch and looked up from the twisted metal he was fixing. The sound meant only one thing. Bad news from space. Jake wiped grease from his hands with an old rag and walked out of his workshop. Around him, the junkyard stretched for miles. Broken ships, damaged robots, and pieces of alien technology covered the ground like a metal sea. He had been collecting this junk for 30 years. Most people called it garbage. Jake called it treasure. The colony's main street buzzed with scared people. Children cried. Adults whispered in worried voices. Everyone knew what the alarm meant. The Zentari were coming. Jake's boots crunched on broken glass as he made his way to the communication center. The building stood in the middle of New Denver like a giant metal tree. Its antennas reached toward the cloudy sky, always listening for messages from other human colonies. Inside, people crowded around screens showing star maps. Red dots moved across the display like drops of blood. Each dot was a Zentari ship. There were hundreds of them. Jake, over here. The voice belonged to Commander Roy Hamilton. He was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. War had aged him quickly. Jake pushed through the crowd. What's the word, Roy? Roy pointed at the biggest screen. Admiral Lisa Parker sent this message. An hour ago, the Zentari found Haven Station. They destroyed it in minutes. Jake's stomach dropped. Haven Station had been home to 50,000 people. Good people. Now they were gone. And that leaves us in the mining station, Jake said. The mining station won't last a day, Roy replied. Those miners have old equipment and no weapons. We're next. On the screen, Admiral Parker's face appeared. She looked tired and scared. Her uniform was wrinkled and her hair was messy. Behind her, Jake could see the bridge of her ship. People ran back and forth, preparing for battle. This is Admiral Parker speaking to all remaining human colonies, she said. The Zentari Council has given us their final message. We have 6 months to surrender completely or they will destroy every human in the galaxy. The room went quiet. Someone started crying. Parker continued. We have 3,000 ships left. They have 50,000. We have brave soldiers, but they have better weapons. They have better shields. They have better everything. Jake watched the faces around him. Fear lived in every eye. These were his neighbors. People he had known for decades. They were miners, farmers, mechanics, and teachers. They were not soldiers. We will fight, Parker said. But I won't lie to you. We cannot win a normal war. We need a miracle. The message ended. The screen went dark. Roy turned to Jake. She's right. We need a miracle. But miracles don't exist in space. Jake walked home through empty streets. The colony felt like a ghost town. People stayed inside, holding their families close. Some were packing, even though there was nowhere to run. His house sat at the edge of the junkyard. It was small but comfortable. Jake had built it himself from salvaged ship parts. The walls were made from hull plating. The roof came from a crashed fighter. Everything had a story. Inside, his daughter Amy sat at the kitchen table. She was 28 years old and brilliant. Numbers and equations covered the papers in front of her. Her calculator clicked as she worked. Dad, I heard the message, she said without looking up. I've been running calculations all day. Jake sat down beside her. What kind of calculations? Amy pushed her glasses up her nose. Survival rates, escape routes, defense possibilities. She shook her head. Nothing works. The Zentari are too strong. Tell me something I don't know, Jake said. Amy picked up a photograph from the table. It showed a dead planet. The ground was black and cracked. The sky was orange and poisonous. Nothing lived there. This was Terra Nova, she said. Before the Zentari came, 2 million people lived there. The planet had blue skies and green forests. The Zentari used their atmospheric processors to change everything. They turned the air into poison. They killed the plants. They made the water acid. Jake had seen pictures like this before. The Zentari were not just conquerors. They were planet killers. How long did it take? He asked. 6 hours. Amy said. 6 hours to destroy a world that took humans 200 years to build. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, his junkyard stretched into the distance. Broken Zentari ships lay scattered among human wreckage. In the center of it, all sat his workshop. That was where he fixed things that other people said could not be fixed. "Amy, come with me," he said. They walked out to the junkyard together. The sun was setting, painting the sky red and gold. Metal gleamed in the dying light. To most people, it looked like a cemetery for dead machines. To Jake, it looked like possibility. "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a large cylindrical device. "This is a Zentari atmospheric processor. I pulled it from a crashed ship 5 years ago." Amy examined the device. It was bigger than a car and covered in strange symbols. Cables and tubes connected to smaller machines around it. "It's broken," she said. "Everything here is broken," Jake replied. "But broken doesn't mean useless." He led her to another section of the junkyard. Here, human technology mixed with alien parts. Engines from Earth ships sat next to Zentari power cores. Computer systems from both civilizations were connected by thick cables. "I've been studying their technology for 30 years, Jake said. "Every piece of junk teaches me something new. The Zentari think differently than we do. Their machines work differently, but they still follow the same physical laws." Amy touched a glowing control panel. "Dad, what are you thinking?" Jake smiled for the first time in days. "I'm thinking about what Admiral Parker said. We need a miracle, but maybe we can build one." He pointed to the atmospheric processor. "That machine can change a planet's air. In hours, over there is a quantum field generator from a scout ship. It can manipulate matter at the atomic level. And that biosynthesis chamber can create living organisms from basic materials." Amy's eyes widened. "You want to build a terraforming device?" "Not just any terraforming device," Jake said. "A fast one. One that can create habitable worlds in hours instead of centuries. If we can make planets faster than the Zentari can destroy them, we can spread across the galaxy like wildfire." Amy was quiet for a long moment. She walked around the junkyard, looking at the broken machines with new eyes. Her brilliant mind was already working on the problem. "It's impossible," she said. Finally, the power requirements alone would be enormous. "And combining human and Zentari technology has never been done successfully." Jake nodded. "That's what makes it perfect. The Zentari won't expect it because they think it's impossible too." The first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, Zentari ships were moving toward them. "Death was coming to New Denver. We have 6 months," Jake said. "Maybe less. It's not enough time to build a normal defense. But it might be enough time to build something they've never seen before." Amy looked at her father. In the dim light, she could see the determination in his eyes. He was a man who had spent his life fixing broken things. Now he wanted to fix the entire human race. "Where do we start?" she asked. Jake smiled and picked up his welding torch. "We start by making the impossible possible. One piece of junk at a time." As father and daughter walked back to the workshop, neither of them noticed the small device hidden among the scrap metal. It was scanning everything around it, sending signals deep into space. The Zentari already knew about Jake's junkyard. They just didn't know how dangerous it was about to become. Jake Morrison walked through the colony's defense center at dawn. The building hummed with activity. Soldiers cleaned weapons that would not save them. Engineers checked shields that would not hold. Everyone was preparing for a war they could not win. He found Commander Roy Hamilton in the strategy room. Maps covered the walls. Red markers showed Zentari positions. Blue markers showed human defenses. There were far more red markers than blue ones. "Roy, I need to talk to you," Jake said. Roy looked up from his papers. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Jake, I'm busy. We have 3,000 things to do and not enough time to do them." "This is important," Jake said. "It's about survival." Roy sighed and gestured to a chair. "Sit down, but make it quick." Jake sat and placed a folder on the table. Inside were Amy's calculations and drawings of alien technology. "We want to build a terraforming device," Roy stared at him. "A what?" "A machine that can make dead planets livable in hours instead of years," Jake explained. "If we can create habitable worlds faster than the Zentari can destroy them, we can spread humanity across the galaxy." Roy opened the folder and looked at the papers. Numbers and equations filled every page. Diagrams showed how different pieces of technology might work together. "This is science fiction," Roy said. "We're mechanics and soldiers, not miracle workers." "The Zentari do it," Jake replied. "They have atmospheric processors that can kill a planet in hours. If they can destroy worlds quickly, we can create them quickly." Roy stood up and walked to the window. Outside, workers built defensive walls that would not stop Zentari weapons. Children played in parks that might not exist next month. "Even if this worked," Roy said, "how would it help us?" "The Zentari will still come. They'll still have bigger guns and better ships." Amy entered the room carrying a laptop computer. She had been working all night. Coffee stains marked her shirt, and her hair was messy. "Dad told me you needed convincing," she said to Roy. She opened the laptop and showed him a video simulation. "Watch this." The screen showed a dead planet. The surface was gray and lifeless. No atmosphere existed, no water flowed. "Nothing lived?" This is what most planets look like," Amy said. "But watch what happens when we activate the terraforming device." The simulation started. A small device appeared on the planet's surface. Energy spread out from it like ripples in water. Where the energy touched, changes began. The gray ground turned brown, then green. Plants grew from nothing. Water appeared and formed rivers. The dead atmosphere became breathable air. In 6 hours, the lifeless world became a garden. "This is impossible," Roy said. "No," Amy replied. "This is physics. The Zentari technology manipulates matter at the quantum level. It can reorganize atoms and molecules. It can create complex structures from simple materials." She showed him another simulation. This one showed multiple terraforming devices working together. They transformed an entire planet in just 4 hours. "If we can build these devices," Amy said, "we can create 1,000 new worlds while the Zentari destroy one. They cannot kill us faster than we can spread." Roy was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the calculations again. The numbers were correct. The theory was sound. But the practical challenges seemed overwhelming. "What do you need?" he asked. Jake smiled. "A team. And access to the restricted technology storage." 3 days later, the team met in Jake's workshop. The building was large enough to hold several vehicles. Workbenches covered in tools lined the walls. In the center sat the 3 main components they would need. Amy Morrison stood beside a whiteboard covered in equations. She had become the team's lead engineer. Her job was to make the impossible mathematics work. Ben Torres sat at a computer terminal. He was a thin man with dark hair and quick hands. Before the war, he had been a quantum physicist. Now he was their expert on the strange science that made alien technology possible. "The quantum field generator is the key," Ben explained to the group. "It creates a field that can manipulate matter at the atomic level. But controlling it requires incredibly complex calculations." Lisa Wright examined a Zentari atmospheric processor. She was a small woman with scars on her arms. The Zentari had captured her 2 years ago. She had escaped after learning their language and studying their technology. "The aliens don't think like us," Lisa said. "Their machines are not just mechanical. They are partly biological. They require a living mind to control them properly." Pete Johnson worked on a power core from a destroyed Zentari ship. He was a demolitions expert who understood energy systems. His job was to make sure their device would not explode when they turned it on. "This power core can generate enough energy to run a small city," Pete said. "But it's unstable. One mistake, and it could level half the colony." Jake walked around the workshop, looking at each component. The atmospheric processor was the size of a small building. The quantum field generator was covered in crystals that glowed with their own light. The biosynthesis chamber looked like a giant metal egg. "Can we make these three things work together?" Jake asked. Amy checked her calculations again. "In theory, yes. The atmospheric processor changes the air. The quantum field generator manipulates matter. The biosynthesis chamber creates living organisms. If we can synchronize them, they should be able to terraform a planet." "In theory," Ben repeated. "But theory and practice are different things." They began working 18 hours a day. The first week was full of failures. The Zentari technology resisted their attempts to modify it. Power fluctuations destroyed their work. Computer systems crashed when they tried to interface human and alien technology. "It's like trying to teach a cat to bark," Lisa said after another failed test. "The alien technology doesn't want to work with our systems." Jake refused to give up. He had spent 30 years learning how alien machines worked. He understood their patterns and their logic. Slowly, he began to find ways to make the different technologies communicate. "The problem is language," he realized. "Human computers use binary code. Centauri computers use quantum states. We need a translator." Amy worked on the translation problem while Ben focused on the quantum mathematics. Lisa studied the biological components of the alien technology. Pete tried to keep the power system stable. After 6 weeks, they had their first breakthrough. Ben successfully interfaced a human computer with a Zentari control system. The two technologies began sharing information. "It's working," Ben said excitedly. "The quantum field generator is responding to our commands." But their success created new problems. The military wanted to control their project. Captain Greg Stevens visited the workshop with a squad of soldiers. "This technology is too dangerous for civilians," Stevens said. "We're taking over the project." Jake stepped between Stevens and the equipment. "This is my workshop. This is my project." "This is military technology," Stevens replied. "And this is wartime. I can requisition anything I need." Amy showed Stevens her calculations. "We're not building a weapon. We're building a tool for survival." Stevens looked at the equations but did not understand them. "Any technology that can change a planet can be used as a weapon. Imagine what this could do to a Zentari world." "We're not trying to destroy their planets," Jake said. "We're trying to save ours." Stevens left with his soldiers, but Jake knew he would return. Military bureaucrats always wanted to control things they did not understand, the team continued. Working in secret, they moved the most important components to a hidden section of the Junkyard. They worked at night and kept their discoveries private. 2 months into the project, they achieved their second breakthrough. The biosynthesis chamber successfully created living plants from basic materials. Green grass grew in their laboratory. For the first time in years, "It's beautiful," Amy said, touching the soft grass. But their joy was short-lived. That night, alarms sounded across the colony. Long-range sensors had detected the Zentari fleet. They were coming 3 months early. "We have 10 weeks, Roy told them the next morning. "Maybe less." Jake looked at his team. They were tired and scared, but they were not defeated. They had come too far to give up now. "Then we better hurry," he said. "The galaxy is counting on." Us, outside, the first Zentari scouts appeared in the night sky like evil stars. Time was running out. The workshop buzzed with desperate energy. Jake Morrison welded metal pieces together while sparks flew around him. Amy typed frantically on her computer, running calculations that might save humanity. Ben Torres stared at screens full of quantum equations that hurt his eyes. Lisa Wright spoke to alien machines in their own language. Pete Johnson worked with power cores that could explode at any moment. They had been working for 8 weeks, without a real breakthrough. The Zentari fleet was getting closer every day. Time was running out. "The atmospheric processor is fighting us again," Lisa said, frustration in her voice. "It keeps rejecting our control signals." Jake wiped sweat from his face. "What's it doing exactly?" "It's like the machine is alive," Lisa explained. "It responds to some commands but ignores others. There's a pattern, but I can't figure it out." Amy looked up from her computer. "Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it really is alive." Ben turned. Away from his equations. What do you mean? I've been studying the Zentari technology for months, Amy said. Their computers don't just process information, they think. They make decisions, they have something like instincts. Lisa nodded slowly. That would explain why they're so hard to control. You can't just give orders to a living system. You have to communicate with it. Jake put down his welding torch. So how do we communicate with it? The same way the Zentari do, Amy said. Through direct neural interface. The room went quiet. Neural interface meant connecting a human brain directly to alien technology. It was dangerous. People who tried it sometimes never came back. That's suicide, Pete said. Human brains aren't designed to interface with alien systems. Maybe not, Ben said thoughtfully, but my brain has been modified. Everyone looked at him. Ben had been injured in a Zentari attack 3 years ago. Military doctors had implanted computer chips in his brain to replace damaged tissue. The chips helped him process complex mathematics. The implants in my brain are partially compatible with quantum systems, Ben explained. I might be able to interface with the Zentari technology. Might is not good enough, Jake said. If this goes wrong, we lose you and the project fails? If we don't try, the project fails anyway, Ben replied. The Zentari will be here in 6 weeks. We need to take the risk. Amy ran medical scans on Ben's brain implants. The results were encouraging. His neural implants used quantum processors similar to Zentari technology. A direct interface was possible. I'll need to modify the connection protocols, Amy said. And we'll need to monitor your brain activity constantly. If something goes wrong, we'll disconnect you immediately. They spent 3 days preparing for the interface. Amy built a control system that could safely connect Ben's implants to the Zentari atmospheric processor. Lisa programmed the alien machine to accept human neural patterns. Pete set up emergency systems to cut the connection if needed. On the 4th day, they were ready to try. Ben sat in a chair surrounded by cables and monitors. Sensors attached to his head measured his brain activity. The atmospheric processor hummed nearby, its alien circuits glowing with soft blue light. Are you sure about this? Jake asked. Ben smiled nervously. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Amy activated the interface. Ben's eyes rolled back as his consciousness merged with the alien machine. His body went rigid. The monitors showed his brain activity spiking to dangerous levels. Ben, can you hear me? Amy asked. For a moment, there was no response. Then Ben's voice came through the speakers, but it sounded strange. Electronic, alien, I can hear you, he said, but I can also hear it. The machine. It's not just a computer, it's a living system. It thinks. It feels, it remembers. What does it remember? Lisa asked. Worlds, Ben said. Thousands of worlds. The Zentari have used this technology to change planets for centuries. Each world is stored in its memory like a photograph. Can you control it? Jake asked. I think so. But it wants to work with me, not against me. It doesn't want to destroy. It wants to create. Ben's body relaxed. His voice became more normal. I'm getting control of the atmospheric systems. The machine is teaching me how to manipulate air and water at the molecular level. Amy watched the monitors. Ben's brain activity was stabilizing. The neural interface was working. Try creating oxygen, she said. Ben concentrated. The atmospheric processor began to hum louder. In a sealed test chamber, the air composition changed. Oxygen levels increased. Carbon dioxide decreased. The air became breathable. It's working, Pete said excitedly. The machine is responding to his commands. They spent the next week learning to control the atmospheric processor. Ben's neural interface allowed them to manipulate air, water, and basic chemistry with incredible precision. But they still needed to integrate the other components. The quantum field generator is next, Amy said. It's the most complex system. Connecting Ben to the quantum field generator was even more dangerous. The machine dealt with fundamental forces of reality. One mistake could tear apart matter at the atomic level, but Ben's enhanced brain adapted quickly. Soon he was manipulating quantum fields like a conductor leading an orchestra. He could reorganize atoms, create complex molecules, and transform matter from one state to another. "This is incredible," Ben said, his voice filled with wonder. "I can feel the quantum foam. I can touch the building blocks of reality." The biosynthesis chamber was the final component. It was designed to create living organisms from basic materials. When Ben interfaced with it, something magical happened. In their test area, grass began to grow. Not just simple grass, but complex plants with roots, leaves, and flowers. The biosynthesis chamber was creating life from nothing but carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. "We did it," Amy said, tears in her eyes. "We actually did it." Jake looked at the growing plants. After months of failure, they had achieved the impossible. The three alien technologies were working together under Ben's control. "Let's test the full system," Jake said. They chose a barren section of New Denver's wasteland. The ground was dead. No plants grew there. The air was thin and toxic. It was the perfect testing ground. Ben activated all three systems simultaneously. The atmospheric processor cleaned the air. The quantum field generator prepared the soil. The biosynthesis chamber planted the seeds of life. The transformation was incredible. Within 6 hours, the dead wasteland became a green meadow. Trees grew tall and strong. Flowers bloomed in bright colors. A small stream appeared, flowing with clean water. "It's beautiful," Lisa said, walking through the new grass, but their celebration was interrupted by the sound of vehicles approaching. Military trucks surrounded the test site. Captain Greg Stevens stepped out with a squad of armed soldiers. "This demonstration is over," Stevens announced. "By order of the Colonial Defense Command, this technology is now under military control." Jake stepped forward. "Greg, you can't do this. We're not finished yet." "You're finished enough," Stevens replied. "Do you realize what you've built? This isn't just a terraforming device, it's the ultimate weapon." "We built it to save lives," Amy protested. Stevens gestured to the transformed landscape. "You built it to change worlds. Think about what this could do to a Zentari planet. We could turn their atmosphere into poison. We could make their water toxic. We could destroy their entire civilization. That's not what we want," Jake said. "That's not your decision to make," Stevens replied. "This is war. We use every weapon we have." Ben, still connected to the alien systems, spoke without opening his eyes. "I won't let you use it as a weapon. The machines won't respond to hatred. They only respond to the desire to create." Stevens ordered his soldiers to disconnect Ben from the systems. "We'll find another way to control it." "You don't understand," Ben said. "The neural interface is permanent now. The alien technology has bonded with my brain. I'm part of the system. If you try to remove me, the whole thing will stop working." Stevens realized the truth. Without Ben's neural interface, the terraforming device was just expensive junk. He needed Ben's cooperation, but Ben would not help him turn the technology into a weapon. "And then we'll keep you under guard," Stevens said. "You'll work for us, or you won't work at all." Soldiers surrounded Ben and began to escort him to a military vehicle. Jake and his team watched helplessly as their friend was taken away. "This isn't over," Jake called out. Stevens turned back. "Yes, it is. The military's in control now. Go back to your junkyard and fix garbage. Leave the important work to professionals." As the military vehicles drove away, Jake stood in the middle of their beautiful creation. Green grass grew around his feet. Birds sang in the trees they had grown from nothing. But their triumph had been stolen from them. "What do we do now?" Amy asked. Jake looked at his daughter. In the distance, he could see the lights of Zentari ships growing brighter in the night sky. The enemy was almost here. "We do what we always do," he said. "We fix what's broken. And right now, everything is broken." That night, Jake made a decision that would change everything. If the military wanted to control their creation, they would have to find it first. The real terraforming device was not in the military's hands. It was still in his junkyard, hidden among piles of junk that only he understood. The war for humanity's future was just beginning. Jake Morrison worked in the darkness of his secret workshop. Hidden beneath his junkyard, this underground chamber contained the real terraforming device. The military had taken their prototype, but Jake had built the true machine in secret. Amy crawled through a ventilation shaft to reach the hidden room. Her clothes were dirty and torn from sneaking past military patrols. The soldiers were watching the main workshop, but they did not know about this place. "Dad, I brought news," she whispered. "The Zentari fleet is 2 weeks away, maybe less." Jake looked up from his work. In front of him sat 12 smaller devices, each about the size of a refrigerator. Instead of building one giant terraforming machine, he had created a network of smaller ones. "These will be easier to move and hide," Jake explained. "But they're more powerful when they work together." Lisa Wright emerged from another tunnel. She had escaped from military custody by pretending to be sick. The guards had taken her to the medical center, where she slipped away during shift change. "I saw Ben," she said. "Stevens has him locked in a military facility. They're trying to force him to control the prototype device. Is he cooperating?" Amy asked. Lisa shook her head. "Ben is pretending the neural interface is damaged. He acts confused and gives them wrong information. Stevens is getting frustrated." Pete Johnson climbed down a ladder from the surface. He had been watching the perimeter for military patrols. His demolitions expertise helped him set up early warning systems around the junkyard. "The soldiers are getting suspicious," Pete reported. "They know we're hiding something." Stevens tripled the patrols around the junkyard. Jake studied a map of New Denver Colony. Red marks showed military positions. Blue marks showed his hidden device locations. "We need to move the devices tonight. Once the Zentari arrive, we won't get another chance." The plan was complex but simple. They would place the 12 terraforming devices in strategic locations around the colony. When the Zentari attacked, they would activate all devices simultaneously. The combined effect would transform the entire planet in hours. "The network effect is the key," Amy explained. "Each device can terraform a small area, but when they work together, they can change an entire world." Jake assigned each person a route and 3 devices. They would travel through maintenance, tunnels, and abandoned buildings to avoid military patrols. The devices were heavy, but they had built anti-gravity sleds to move them. "Remember," Jake said, "if you're caught, you don't know anything. You were just salvaging scrap metal." They began moving at midnight. Jake took the northern route, carrying his devices through old mining tunnels. The tunnels were dark and cold, but they led directly to the colony's edge. Amy went east, using service corridors beneath the residential district. Her devices were disguised as air conditioning units. If anyone saw them, she would claim they were replacement parts for damaged buildings. Lisa headed south through the industrial sector. Her knowledge of Zentari technology would be crucial for setting up the devices correctly. She knew which settings would create the best results. Pete went west toward the spaceport. His route was the most dangerous because of heavy military presence. But the spaceport location was critical for the network to function properly. Jake reached his first position without incident. He set up the terraforming device in an abandoned warehouse. The machine's quantum sensors would detect when the other devices activated, then synchronize automatically. As he worked, Jake thought about Ben. His friend was probably suffering in military custody. Stevens would not give up easily. He would keep trying to force Ben to cooperate. Amy placed her second device in a school basement. The building was emptied because classes had been canceled due to the approaching Zentari fleet. She worked quickly. Knowing that security patrols checked the school every hour, Lisa encountered her first problem at the industrial complex. Military guards were stationed at every entrance. She had to crawl through a drainage pipe to reach her target building. The pipe was narrow and filled with dirty water, but she made it through. Pete faced the biggest challenge. The spaceport was heavily guarded because of civilian evacuation efforts. He had to wait for 2 hours until the guards changed shifts, then sprint across open ground to reach his hiding spot. By dawn, they had placed all 12 devices. Jake returned to his workshop exhausted but satisfied. The network was ready. Now they just had to wait for the right moment to activate it, but their success was short-lived. Captain Stevens arrived at the Junkyard with a full company of soldiers. They surrounded the workshop and began searching every building. "Morrison, I know you're hiding something," Stevens called out. "My technicians can't make your prototype work properly. We need the real device." Jake stepped out of his workshop with his hands raised. "This is all I have, Greg. You took my prototype. You took my team. What more do you want?" Stevens gestured to his soldiers. They began tearing apart the workshop, looking for hidden technology. They found old computers, broken alien devices, and piles of scrap metal, but they did not find the real terraforming devices. "Where is it?" Stevens demanded. "Where's the real machine?" "You're holding it," Jake lied. "Ben is the key. Without him, nothing works." Stevens grabbed Jake by the shirt. "Don't play games with me. The Centauri will be here in days. We need that terraforming technology." "To use as a weapon," Jake said. "You want to destroy their worlds." "To save our world," Stevens replied. "That's what soldiers do. We sacrifice everything to protect our people." As Stevens argued with Jake, Amy was watching from a hidden position. She had a radio transmitter that could activate the device network. But she needed to wait for the right moment. That moment came sooner than expected. Warning sirens began wailing across the colony. Long-range sensors had detected the Centauri fleet dropping out of hyperspace. The enemy had arrived. Stevens released Jake and grabbed his radio. "All units, prepare for battle. The Centauri are here." In the sky above New Denver, dark shapes began to appear. Centauri ships were massive, each one the size of a small city. Their weapons could destroy buildings with single shots. Their shields could deflect any human weapon. Commander Roy Hamilton's voice crackled over the radio. "All military personnel report to battle stations. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters." Stevens looked at Jake one last time. "This is your last chance, Morrison. Help us or watch your world burn." Jake met his eyes steadily. "I've already helped. You just don't know it yet." Stevens and his soldiers rushed away to join the battle. Jake was left alone in his destroyed workshop. Around him, the sounds of war began. Explosions echoed across the colony. Centauri weapons lit up the sky like deadly fireworks. Amy emerged from her hiding place. "Dad, should I activate the network?" Jake looked at the chaos around them. Military vehicles raced toward defensive positions. Families ran toward underground shelters. In the distance, he could see the first Centauri ships landing. "Not yet," he said. "We need to wait until they're committed to the attack. Once they start using their atmospheric processors, we'll spring our trap." Ben Torres sat in his military prison, still pretending to be disabled. Through his cell window, he could see the Centauri fleet filling the sky. His neural implants were actually working perfectly. He could feel the 12 hidden devices calling to him like old friends. Soon, he thought, soon it would be time to show the galaxy what humans could do when they worked together. The battle for New Denver was about to begin. But Jake Morrison had a secret weapon that nobody expected. In his Junkyard, built from salvaged parts and human determination, lay the future of both species. The real fight was just starting. The sky above New Denver burned with alien fire. Centauri ships hovered like metal mountains, their weapons turning buildings into dust. Human fighters attacked the massive vessels, but their shots bounced off energy shields like raindrops on glass. Jake Morrison crouched in his ruined workshop, watching the battle through a cracked window. Explosions shook the ground beneath his feet. The air smelled of smoke and melted metal. Around him, his life's work lay scattered by Captain Stevens. Soldiers, Amy huddled beside her father, clutching the radio transmitter that would activate their hidden devices. "Dad, our people are dying out there." "I know," Jake said quietly, "but we have to wait. If we activate the network too early, the Centauri will adapt and stop us." Across the colony, Commander Roy Hamilton fought a losing battle. His tanks fired at Centauri landing craft, but the alien armor was too thick. His aircraft attacked from above, but Centauri fighters shot them down like clay birds. "Fall back to secondary positions," Hamilton ordered over the radio. "All units fall back." The Zentari commander, Admiral Kekstar, stood on the bridge of his flagship. Through the viewing screen, he watched human forces retreat. The battle was proceeding exactly as planned. "Begin atmospheric conversion," Kekstar commanded. "We will make this world uninhabitable, as we did to all the others." Zentari atmospheric processors descended from the ships like giant metal insects. They landed in key positions around the colony and immediately began working. The air started to change. Oxygen levels dropped. Toxic gases appeared. Plants began to wither and die. In his prison cell, Ben Torres felt the atmospheric processors activate. His neural implants detected their quantum signatures. The alien machines were poisoning the world, just as they had done to dozens of human colonies, but Ben also felt something else. 12 familiar signals calling to him from hidden locations around New Denver. Jake's terraforming devices were waiting for his command. Ben closed his eyes and reached out with his enhanced mind. The neural interface connected him to the network of devices scattered across the colony. Each machine responded to his mental touch like a loyal friend. "I hear you," he whispered. "I'm ready." In the workshop, Amy watched her instruments. "Dad, the atmospheric processors are working. The air is getting toxic." Jake nodded grimly. "That's what we've been waiting for. Amy, activate the network." Amy pressed the transmitter button. Across the colony, 12 terraforming devices received the signal and came to life. Their quantum generators began spinning up to full power. Ben felt the devices activate and smiled. Through his neural link, he coordinated all 12 machines like a conductor leading an orchestra. The atmospheric processors were changing the world, but now humans would change it back. The first terraforming device activated near the spaceport. Energy rippled out from it like waves in a pond. Where the energy touched, the poisoned air became clean. Dead grass turned green again. Withered trees sprouted new leaves. Admiral Kekstar noticed the change immediately. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why is the atmospheric conversion reversing?" His science officer studied the readings. "Unknown, Admiral. Some kind of quantum field is neutralizing our processors." The second and third devices activated simultaneously. The wave of transformation spread faster now, racing across the colony like a green tide. Toxic air became breathable. Poisoned water ran clear. Dead soil burst with new life. Captain Stevens watched from his command bunker as the miraculous change swept past him. Dead ground outside his window suddenly bloomed with flowers. The air that had been choking his soldiers became fresh and clean. "Morrison," he whispered, "you magnificent fool." The fourth, fifth, and sixth devices joined the network. The transformation accelerated beyond anything the Zentari had ever seen. Where their atmospheric processors needed hours to kill a world, the human devices needed minutes to restore it. Ben felt the joy of creation flowing through the machines. The alien technology that had been designed to destroy was now being used to build. The quantum generators hummed with purpose as they rewrote reality at the atomic level. "More," Ben said aloud in his cell. "Give me more power." The seventh, eighth, and ninth devices activated. The wave of life swept over the entire colony now. Buildings that had been damaged by the bombardment repaired themselves. Craters filled with clean water. Burned forests regrew in minutes instead of years. Admiral Kekstar realized what was happening. "They are terraforming the planet while we attack it." "How is this possible?" The quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases," his science officer reported. "The humans have created something new." The transformation reached the Zentari landing sites. Their atmospheric processors began to malfunction as the quantum fields interfered with their operation. Machines that had poisoned dozens of worlds suddenly stopped working. "Our equipment is failing," reported a Zentari ground commander. "The quantum interference is overloading our systems." Kekstar watched his perfect plan fall apart. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were healing their world faster than he could damage it. The 10th and 11th devices activated. The transformation spread beyond the colony to the surrounding wilderness. Dead deserts became grasslands. dry riverbeds filled with flowing water. The entire continent was changing. Ben felt the network reaching its full potential. The 12 devices working together could terraform an entire planet in hours. But more importantly, their quantum fields were disrupting all Zentari technology. "Jake," Ben spoke through the radio in the workshop, "activate the 12th device. Let's show them what humans can do." Jake smiled and nodded to Amy. She pressed the final button. The 12th device was the most powerful, hidden deep beneath the colony center. When it activated, the entire planet's transformation accelerated beyond belief. New Denver became a garden world in minutes. The air became perfect for human life. Water flowed clean and pure. Every surface bloomed with earth plants and alien flowers living together in harmony. The quantum field effect spread to the Zentari ships in orbit. Their weapons stopped working, their shields failed, their engines shut down. The massive vessels hung helpless in space, their crews staring in amazement at the impossible sight below. Admiral Kekstar stood silent on his bridge. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans had turned a weapon of destruction into a tool of creation. They had taken broken alien technology and made it serve life instead of death. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are sending a message." Commander Hamilton's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral Kekstar, this is Commander Roy Hamilton of the New Denver Defense Force. We are prepared to discuss terms." Kekstar was quiet for a long moment. Around his ship, the transformed planet spun like a jewel in space. Continents that had been brown and dying now glowed green with life. "Open a channel," he said finally, the first diplomatic. Contact between humans and Zentari began with a simple question from Kekstar. "How did you do this?" Jake Morrison stood in his workshop, surrounded by the scattered pieces of his life's work. Outside, children were already playing in grass that had grown from dead ground. Birds sang in trees that had sprouted from nothing. "We took your junk and made it into something beautiful," Jake said when Hamilton relayed the question. "That's what humans do. We fix broken things." The war ended not with weapons, but with wonder. The Zentari had come to destroy a world and found humans who could create one. Ben Torres became the first human ambassador to the Zentari, his neural implants allowing him to communicate directly with their technology. Amy Morrison led the new terraforming cores, spreading life to dead worlds across the galaxy. The network of devices, built from Junkyard scraps and human determination, became the template for a new age of exploration. Jake returned to his workshop, but now it was different. Instead of weapons and warships, he fixed terraforming equipment. Instead of preparing for war, he built tools for peace. Years later, when children played in the forest that had grown from wasteland, they would ask their parents about the Great Transformation. The parents would tell them about Jake Morrison, the mechanic who saved the galaxy with spare parts and stubbornness. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.